Welcome, everybody, to webinar number 14.
Wow, we up to 14 already?
We are 14, yes. A
Nice.
year and 2 months of dealing with us.
Ha ha.
Uh, all right, welcome, folks. Today it's another one of open forums for questions, emails.
Comments,
Yeah,
funny stories.
we are sort of thinking on any kind of a series that we can do. I have it in mind that we can run a series of how to go from a track plan and lay out lay it out in your CS3. Also, I suppose, actually, Rick, we never really discussed this. We could probably field some questions from CS2s, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, the thing is, we should also, because we are Marklin Digital Team, we should also be open to any kind of hopefully digital questions you have regarding tricks or even LGB. Sorry.
That's
So
a tough
hope
one to
well,
say.
yeah. Open chat window. We're gonna open up our chat window. If you guys have any questions, feel free. Let's see. Just to fill in dead space, we do have some sort of complex questions through email, which are still trying to sort out in our heads. And I'll just kind of tackle one of these now just to actually, I think overall it may actually be sort of a waste of time. At the end of my list of events, 3 new events have automatically appeared called Block 1, Block 2, and Block 3, each with a series of 5 containers. And he didn't find anything about this in the help file. And all I can say, unfortunately, is that is unusual. I've never seen anything that loaded up unless you have maybe accidentally clicked or enabled your macros and you've enabled macros. Or, and getting into your event structure. Let me share the window here. You guys can see what I'm talking about. Share here. So essentially, whenever you do events, it can be a little confusing because it's just mostly trying to figure out what is going on with my system. So this is obviously it's a blank setup. When you click on events, you have your add macro or your add event button here, or you can actually access it on the edit button. And this is just an easy way to do it. If you add a macro, for instance, well, then you have a selection of which one of your macros you want to add. We have a webinar regarding this. If macros basically will gauge, or called macro if, it's going to test areas on your track to see if one of them is sort of true, whether or not you can do things like a signal is turned green or red, a turnout is turned one way or the other, or you have track occupation, then you can actually make decisions based on that. The macro loop is basically a cycling turn of events. And sort of once you get it going, unless there's an update on it, it's trying to shut it off is interesting. Usually you have to cycle stop your layout to get it to stop looping. Otherwise, it just keeps going. So, like if you have a station sound that you want to occur every 5 minutes, well, it's just going to keep doing that until you actually cycle it to stop the looping. Random, macro random, and this is just a summary of these macros. Random is you can select a selection of outcomes. Basically, it's like, let's say you have 5 turnouts and you set up all 5 turnouts. Well, it's going to randomly select which one of those turnouts will switch. The macro and or on the left, and these are more complex because it kind of creates a macro and means you can create more than one condition, and they both have to be met. They both have to be true. So it's like saying you need to have the signal as red, and the train has to be at that station for it to operate. The macro or is sort of the flip-flop of that. It's like one or the other condition can work. So it's like if you have a train on line 1, or if you have a train on line 2, then you can have it do something like turn on a red light signal. The confusing ones, the complex ones, are the macro shuttles and the macro brakes. And then the macro brake, and I'm going to actually start up a macro brake here. These are actually probably very little used by me, and they're probably the most complex. So you can see here on the left, I have created a macro brake 1 container, and then you actually have, look at this, you have 8 steps here, which it just sort of takes some understanding. The first step is which locomotive you actually want to enable in this braking setup. The VMIN is basically the slow speed. You have a pause flag, which I believe is a container where you can activate and it stops the process. You have a switchable signal or container. It's called the semaphore container. And then this one actually, I believe, container break. Let's open that one up. Fail container first. Yeah. So basically, it's what you drag into this. It might be an S88 contact, which triggers the break. Not actually sure. No, actually, that wouldn't be correct. That wouldn't be true. This ACE88 contact is the starting point for when you want the locomotive to slow down, and then this 88 is another contact track which you would use to that once the train hits it, it needs to stop that train. The overlap container, honestly, I don't know what that does yet. I haven't looked at it. And then your emergency container is basically, it could actually be if the train doesn't stop, you want it to actually do something. It actually could be a container of events. You can also use, I think, in these containers, if I sort of it's a guess here, guys, so don't take my word for it. Maybe you can use an N container so that the emergency container can actually do 2 steps, because again, these containers in a macro only contain 1 item. So if you have an emergency setup where you need a couple of things to happen, then you'd actually want to nest another event. And let me kind of quickly show how that works. So if I create let's create another container that's FS1 here. And it's blank. So what I can do now, let's close this. Hopefully you guys are getting this. It is a bare system, so this is going to be a really kind of poor example. So let's just add a couple of turnouts. Doesn't matter what they are. There's one. Let's add another one. Let's actually add a light or light signal. Okay, so that's that macro. So we're just going to drop these in here. So you can have multiple events in a standard event container. And we're going to go back to our event list because that is actually, oops. So now if I have this break container, and I'll just see if this works, I can drag FS1 in here, and that would actually run this entire routine here. So that's what a nested container looks like and how you would actually implement. It's the way you can put multiple events into a single container. Okay, so in regards to this question, he has block 1, block 2, and block 3. So yeah, he's got something tricky going on. I don't really know how he enabled that. He's just, apparently he says he's got 3 blocks in here. How that happened, the only way anything would auto load that without sort of inadvertently clicking things. It's just it's either a macro. The other thing that could be done in hindsight is, if it reads block, maybe he added some S88 contacts to it. And these contact switches, whether or not they're contacts, reads, or magnetic. Well, that's a magnetic read or a circuit switch. Those are the ones with the flippers on it, guys. That are triggered by the center slider. So if you have blocks like this, let's see if that does. Let's see if we can answer that guy's question here. Oops. Okay. It's just don't worry about that warning. It just means I haven't assigned it to a proper S88 yet.
We have a hand raised. He might
Yeah.
have a question about something you already
Okay.
covered.
Yeah. Go ahead. Where is it? I don't have my windows open yet. Q&A.
Hello, it's this business of the blocks only appears at the end. I've got lots of events,
Okay.
and 3 of these blocks have appeared with 5 containers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you call down an event and access the macros from the event itself, there is something called control, which I think is this block thing. You have to be within an event
Mm-hmm.
and access the macros, and I've got something called control. You have to be within the event to do it.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, the moment the moment anybody mentions a control feature on here, uh, hang on, I'm having an issue on my screen here. It doesn't want to open up my events window.
If you open the events window,
Yeah, I'm trying to. It's just not working at the moment. Oh, here it is, because I slid it all the way over to the right. Okay, so you is this
yeah,
John?
yes, it's John. It's
Okay,
me.
so this is your email. Okay.
Yeah, and where it says plus
This one
for
here?
adding macros, look,
Oh,
you've got
okay, yeah.
something
Okay, there's
called
a control
control.
window.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
that's something that's new that I didn't.
Yeah, well, actually, this has been around, John. Generally, I don't remember, or personally, this is more or less a useless thing for me. I don't use it at all. And this is probably why I'm really not familiar with it. Okay, so the thing is, what happens is, this control setting is you're actually controlling an event that's operating your CS3. Okay, so if it's triggered by any kind of device, this type, what it's going to do is, let's say it's triggered by something in the track, right?
Yeah.
The what's going to result is you're actually going to stop your CS3. It actually
Yes.
is like pressing the stop bar on your CS3.
Mm-hmm.
And think of it as an emergency stop, which is great if you need it. But to some degree, it's pointless, because once I stop my CS3, then nothing else is going to operate. None of my
Right.
events. So it's something that I have very little use for. You actually sort of, now that we're looking at it, the events stop. It's the same thing. It's basically, John, it's a global control. You're
I
not
see.
just stopping one event, you're stopping everything in your system,
Yeah.
including stopping all your events. So, people, I would probably say, because we're human and we're curious, the moment we see anything that says control, we want to have control over it, right? And so we're
Yes.
going to press on it, and then we're going to get this random thing that even I don't understand what it does, because, like I said, it doesn't have a lot of use, especially the way that I operate the system. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad that you're online. I was kind of hoping you were, because it was a little cryptic to kind of read through your questions and figure out what exactly you were looking at. So now that we kind of know, yeah, this control feature, of these macros, the ones that I very little use are the last 3 here, which is macro break, macro shuttle, and control. The reason why I don't use the macro shuttle is because I more or less customize the way my shuttles operate, and it's sort of beneficial when you have more of a complex layout structure. Macro shuttles are just basically creating a back and forth system, or a point to point, for a single locomotive, and it doesn't involve any complexities like crossing lines, or multiple stops along a line. So that's why I don't really use a macro shuttle. The macro brake is it's centralized on a specific locomotive, and if you have, if you've got 8 locomotives or even 4 locomotives, and you got to assign a brake unit, um, it's bizarre because the thing is these macro breaks are triggered by contact tracks or read switches or whatever. And when let's say train A hits this one contact and you've programmed it for train A, well, when train B runs over that contact, it's going to break train A, right? So it doesn't really, there's a little bit of a flaw in the logic right now. I don't know if there's development stages on this with the programmers or the engineers at Marklin. It's just right now it's not completely functional because the CS3 is not a computer in the sense where it can actually track locomotives. Yeah, we're going beyond your question, John, but hopefully you kind of get the macro control. It's just one of those things that
What I'll do, I'll send you a screen dump
okay.
of these block
Yeah.
that have got five containers.
Yeah.
I'll send you a screen dump, and then you will see what I mean.
Yeah, and in short though, it's kind of like even if I see those, if it's generated because you use the control, I would just delete it. I don't know if you want to research it and find if there's any use for it. That's great. But yeah, you can send it to me. I'll look at it and we'll kind of figure out maybe there's some more to it than that I don't see.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, thanks, John. I'll look at some of your other questions during the course of the meeting here to see if there's anything I can answer online. I think we're going to get to some other questions too while we're here. Let's see.
Yeah, there's a couple that I've been looking at here.
Yeah, do we want to make the announcements regarding Train Fests?
Well, somebody mentioned that Train Fest in Milwaukee is on for this year. We haven't heard anything, and I don't know if we're going, even if it is on. Last we heard, it was not, and we are not. So
yeah, we have. Yeah, it's not just Marklin USA that kind of puts us on restrictions. There is, Marklin in Germany has sort of banned travel for sort of globally for everybody. So if we are not there, there may actually be some representatives from Marklin there. It just may not be us. We need to Q&A.
You're still sharing your screen.
Yeah, well, we got a hands up too. We got to
John.
Need to find John. Here we go. Lower hand and disable talking. Okay. One question. Last time we mentioned to use the booster. Used for all MFX items to work properly. This also pertain to terminal box, M83, M84, and the S88 switch mode power packs. Okay. So question regarding boosters and power supplies. Terminal box does not require any specific power because it gets plugged into the. He's asking about whether or not there's updates or modifications. Or wait, I'm saying this wrong. Sorry, guys.
Basically, the answer is no. You don't need to use.
The S88 requires a switch mode power pack. So if you have new S88s, they do need switch mode power packs.
That's the L88, not the S88.
Oh yeah, that's an L88. Thanks, Rick. So M83s, M84s, if you are going to daisy chain them together and you want to use the power supply to it, do we know if that requires the switch mode power pack?
No, that's that universal power supply, I think, that he's referring to. Where we discussed that several times during the year, and we don't feel they're really necessary. If you're using 2 and 3 M84, M83s, M84s, you don't need the universal power supply. That's if you have 15 or 20 of these things, you might want to think about it. But if you're a normal layout, if you have a normal layout size and you're only using 4 or 5 M83s or M84s, you can just use it off track power because it takes so little power, and M83s use track power to turn turnouts, and it's such a short amount of time that it puts out power that it's just insignificant. M84 is a little bit different depending on what you're powering. We can go into that at some other time.
Well, let me go over a little bit of theory. I have in my hand an M83. Let's pretend it's an M84. Okay. The control inputs are going into these two sides, and then all it does is it switches the internal relay. The power that's supplied through this does not draw any power from this box at all. Okay, so it doesn't need a power supply. There are tabs here that are used for hobby signals, in which case they would use those. That's when you need power supply for it. Should be the M84, right?
M84 is like that.
Yeah, but when you use this input, it's basically a switch between the center terminal to the two outer terminals. So it's either going to switch one way or the other, unless you sort of reconfigure CV values, which I'm not going to get into that. It's in one of our articles if you want to look at advanced configurations for M83s or M84s. But essentially, these outputs are independent from any power supply. So basically what I'm saying is if you need power to these control outputs, you need to connect a battery or separate power supply for it. Doesn't matter what it is. It can be AC, it can be DC. It's your choice, because that's all it is switching these inputs and outputs on and off. That's the M84. My theory with the M83s is most people are concerned with track power switching M83s, probably based on an analog model, because when you use power to switch the relay on it, you're essentially draining power to some point. And, if you're on an analog train, well, you can see your trains may be slowing down once in a while. But on digital, it doesn't operate that. You have digitally controlled speed, which isn't really generated by power. It's basically modulated by the decoder instead. So when an M83 switches on and off, it doesn't really absorb power in that way on a digital layout. So most of the times, you don't need a universal power supply. You just use your track power. And as Rick said, the drain on it is so minimal, because you're talking about typically 200, 250 milliseconds.
Yeah, 200 milliseconds, I think. Is what
Yeah, but drain.
Factory.
Yeah, so no sense. The S88 or L88s, all it's really doing is sort of measuring, I guess, a current variance is what I say, one way or the other. And when it changes, it just activates the S88. So that's our answer to that.
And the last part of that question refers to also, do you need to use the switch mode power packs? You don't really use a switch mode power pack for any of those except for an L88 and a booster. A booster can be, you can use a standard transformer with the booster or a switch mode power pack. You can use either with the booster. Marklin has retained that in the lineup, that you can use a transformer. So
yeah, and you are, I know there is a plug for a power supply on an M83. And again, it's sort of like, I don't really see a whole lot of use for it. And there's a question when you side chain all these things together. It's still, I don't really know the effectiveness of having a power supply connected to it, since the drain is so metal. And plus, there's also sort of my thing here is if you have a large layout and you've got 4 of these all clustered together, well, each one of these outputs is going to your turnout or signal, and you're going to have all these wires all over the place. So it's kind of like, do you want to have all these clustered in one area of your layout, stretching, single wires 10, 5-10 feet away all over in a spider web? Or do you want to localize these close to where you need them? Like if you have a yard, just put one of these by the yard or 2 of these by the yard. And then if you have turnouts on the other side of the layout, put one of these over there. So it's sort of up to you. We're not telling you what to do it, but there's, is it practical one way or the other? How much wiring do you guys want to do? So that's my comment. Sorry for the noise there.
okay. I don't understand this last question here. Where, again, do we find out the Marklin item number if we know the Lokes road number? Okay, if I know the road number and I don't know the item number, I usually just Google the number, Marklin, whatever it is on the side of the locomotive, and then you can find it from there. And Dean has another question, which is kind of long and complicated. Questions about stopping his locomotives. When he pushes stop on his mobile station controller, the locomotive immediately stops. Yes, it's going to do that. That's an emergency stop. You're going to kill track power to your entire layout doing that. That's what it's for. He says, I imagine there's a way to have the lokes just gradually slow down and then stop, not immediately stop. Yes, that's one of the Marklin brake modules or signal modules, depending on what you want to call it. They're all the same item. Brake module, signal module. That's how the locomotives slow down and stop at a station or a signal or whatnot. Yes, it is doable by using the brake module. Imagine. He says, then he says, I imagine I have to delve into the local electronics. No, yes, a little bit. You will have to set your braking delay for use with the brake module. That way, normally what we do is we run locomotives at a somewhat prototypical speed. And so when you use a brake module, you set a locomotive to stop in your slowdown sections, and you want to take up most of your slowdown sections. And both Curtis and I we just like to say 2 regular straight tracks, whether it's 188s or 172s, or a combination of either. We like it to slow down within 2 tracks and stop before the signal or before the emergency stop. So we do have to trim out the braking delay depending on what speed we're running. That's just a little bit of tuning of your locomotive. So with a mobile station, you can use a brake module. You can use signals with the brake module also. So yes, you can have them slow down and stop. Automatic routing is a little bit trickier. I've done an article on that for the mobile station. You don't actually set the mobile station to do any routing. It's all digitally controlled analog routing, basically, is the best way to put it. And if anyone has any questions about that, we can look back in the newsletters or email me and I can send you the newsletters that has that. So.
Okay, I am going to answer a question regarding turnouts in events, which was another question from John. Let me pop my screen up here. It's going to be one of those mystery questions for you here, John. Basically, what is being asked is you have these position settings. Okay, so there's ways that we can look. Am I sharing the screen? I'm sharing the wrong part of the screen. Sorry.
Yeah, you're sharing your screen.
Yeah, let me make sure that's it. Okay. All right. Okay, so essentially what's going on is these position markers, especially in the event line here, are going to have 2 different settings. One is either as an action, in which case the action setting is going to switch the turnout to one of these 2 events. And I'm glossing over your question a little bit, John, because I need to get this explanation up first. The other setup is a condition. And the only way to access condition is you need to set up your CS3 to operate in extended mode. And I will show that in a second for those who are not familiar with it. And you have conditions here to basically either delay or continue. But conditions, what it does is it evaluates this position instead. And I'm just going to click OK. Now you can see the difference here. Let's get rid of this step here for clarity here. So I have 2 turnouts. This one here does not have this question mark icon. And so basically what it means is this switch is going to switch to a curved turnout if it's a curved turnout, and you can alter that by going here, changing the position to this. And that means it's just going to switch this to straight. When you see a question mark, it's basically evaluating. It's going to say, is this turnout set for a curve? Or in this instance, is this turnout set as straight? Now the question is, there's two other icons here. And I'm talking about these position icons, and it's these two icons here, which when you go the way of Apple and you use pictograms for everything, people don't really know what they are unless it's explained, and that unfortunately also includes us. We don't get definitions of all these icons that we see. But essentially, the way I'm evaluating it is basically saying, is this train, can I see it, or is that piece of track, in most cases, is it occupied by a train? The icon to the right of it is there no train? In other words, I don't see a train. Okay, so that's how I would evaluate these icons. Well, these icons don't make any sense in terms of an action, because basically you're saying, okay, I need you to take W1 and tell me that you see a train. Doesn't make any sense, right? However, it does probably make sense if it, and even look here. So I'm looking at the condition and it doesn't have those two icons. So in one sense, there's a reverse. So I don't know exactly what the developer's sort of intent is on these two icons. Maybe it's, it's just a little cryptic, John. So I wish I had an answer for you that was basically hardline, but I don't know how it's applied. I don't know what you can do to say, do I see a train or do I not see a train? So good question. It's just, it's one of those unknowns that when do I need that, or when do I apply that? I haven't run across that circumstance yet, but one of you guys might, and that it might actually apply, in which case everybody will understand and the light bulbs will click, and then we'll have fireworks. So that's what that is there. Let's see. Remember, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to add them, or if you have something that maybe you have a comment on, let us know. Raise your hand. We do have one question. This John is also based in the UK, and I haven't looked at any stats to see how many users we have in the UK, John. We do have maybe some access to that information, but not at the moment. I don't have my browser window open for that. So
You're still sharing.
move on. I'm still sharing. So stop. We do have John. Okay, John, go ahead. You can unmute your mic.
Oh yeah. So the other question was, we've got this new improved interface that came with the last update, and I don't know whether you've seen it. You have to go into the settings and ask for the more basic interface. Does that prevent us using the system in other ways? Have you tried that?
We're on, under which tab do you see that?
Well, it's in the system setting. You've got a tab now.
All right, on my system.
There's the simpler style or something, words like that.
All right, let's see if we can find it. Setting a CS3 settings, standard user face. Oh, simplified.
Simplified user face. That's it.
All right, well, let's switch over and see what it is.
Does that mean if we use that, we can't use all the other facilities? That's what I was wondering.
Well, let me share the screen and let's have a look at it. So this is a simplified interface that John is talking about. It looks to me that really all it's doing is it's just giving you locomotive control. Okay, there's a keyboard control. All right, so this definitely looks like it could be more relevant to CS2 users. People would have history on that.
Yeah, it's just definitely retro back to the old keyboards and CS2 keyboards.
Yeah. I think hunting around with this, like, I mean, obviously, if you have like running a multi sort of system like two rail, or you have DCC locomotives that allows you to sort of directly control at an address. It's sort of like a handheld controller. DCC address 15. I want to control that. Generate your speed. I think this is one of those things, John. Is like, you know what? If you're used to standard, I
Yes.
would stay in standard. I think there's a lot of features in here, at least in my mind or my ability to sort of do more advanced stuff. And let me just kind of,
It's intended for novice users, I suppose.
yeah, more or less. I mean, it really just gives you sort of locomotive control. If that's all you're looking for, then yeah, go with simplified. But if you have, something, like, let me load this up. I'm sure you guys love seeing this. Okay, yeah, it's loading up my system. When you have something more advanced like that, where you need sort of track control, or you're doing more
Yes.
track control, then
Yes.
I wouldn't want to be in simplified. You do have these controls where you can drag it out. I don't know which is more simple for controlling a locomotive, frankly. You just like, I got all speed, I got all my functions. That's all I really need. If I really want to, go nerd out, I have my cab view, which I don't think you'll get in simplified view. Um, yeah, personal preference, obviously. Whatever you guys want to do. Let's go back to the simplified mode again if you guys want to kind of look at that. System, more, CS3 settings. And by the way, so before I switch this over, for those who are interested in how you get to the extended modes, it's under Track Protocols and Operations under the CS3 System button. This one here, scroll down, and you want to just click on Events Extended Mode. So that's that. And then let's go back to Simplified User Interface. You guys can look at that while we look at another question here. Can you set up the CS3 so all locomotives on the system use the same scale for speed? Well, that's easier said than done. And the reason is because each, I mean, it's going to be somewhat relative, but the thing is, motors and decoders all have enough variances where they're not always going to run at the same speed. They also sometimes come from the factory with their electronic throttles wide open. So you can't, if you're talking about max speed, then what exactly is the scale that you need to match it to? There's ways to do scale speeds, but it means that you need to sort of set up track sensors so that you can sort of do all the math and say, okay, this is correct scale speed. So it's a complex question, but essentially, no, there's nothing in the CS3 that you can actually use to sort of match everything up.
Yeah, there's also, I mean, the locomotives come some with can motors, some with 5-pole motors, and the gearing is different in them, so there's really no blanket setting for all of them.
Yeah, and you can see on the screen again here that this is with locomotives in it. It just kind of goes to the simple. This is really sort of for those familiar with CS2s. It really does more or less mimic a CS2 interface,
Do
simple
you
control.
do you have a track diagram in that view, in that mode?
Well, let's see. So it just gives me all my keyboards, and it really, I'm just trying to see where that, if there was any kind of, that expands it. That actually gets to the edit windows. Let's see if I can get out of that.
There doesn't seem to be a track diagram.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just trying to see. Yeah, it doesn't really seem to offer that. So there you have it, John. You needed simple. That's what you got.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect you, John. So. And okay, Tim has a question. 3 questions How does he import a picture of a locomotive into its profile? Rick, I'm going to let you, why don't you field that one? Because
Oh my
done it.
God, once again, we did this on a webinar. You can easily go back and look at one of our webinars where we had a topic. And you basically grab an image from wherever you can, maybe even the manufacturer's website, scale it down. And if you go back, again, I'm going to glance over this because we covered this many times in one webinar. So
That used the, you're using the interface. I can kind of show that if we want to really quickly.
yeah, but do we really want to go through the entire thing again?
Well, I might as well. I mean, it's time, but let me see if I can get back to that window. That was actually through a browser window, right? Okay, so essentially what you need to do, the first thing you need to do is you need to basically have your CS3 or CS2 connected to your router first. And this is going to kind of be the simplest way to do this, guys. So let me share the screen again so you guys know where you're going. Essentially, you need to go into the system, and you're going to look for the IP button down here if this is a screen you see. And you want to be sure you have all these fields full. And how to do that is you need to make sure it's connected to your router before you turn on your CS3. And then the number you need is the IP address number here, 192.168.1. Whatever yours says. The next thing you need to do is then you're going to go to a web browser, and I'll quickly go change screens. Screen. Okay. Share. And instead of this link, you need to type in that number, 2168.1.55, and you will get this web interface screen. But if this is the first time you've ever done this, you're going to have probably a button here that's going to click for license agreement, and it's going to send you to another page which requires another license agreement at the bottom of those. Just click OK. Okay, so Rick, you might need to remind me, we just basically take those images that you have on your thumb drive, wherever you downloaded, and we go into this button here. Is that correct, Rick?
Yes, you go to uploading.
You go to uploading, and whatever this says, blah, blah, blah. And then you get this screen image here, and I believe all you need to do is just drag that picture.
Yeah, you just drag and drop, and it goes into an editor where you can resize it and move it left, right, up, down, and then you save it as an. It's best to save it. What we do is we save it as the item number, the Marklin item number, or locomotive name. That way, it's easy to find when it's in your inventory of images in your central station. Otherwise, if you don't remember what it is, you're going to be scrolling for a while looking for it. So you save it before you import it here, drag it and drop it, and it will help out a lot.
Yeah, it's easier to locate a product number than to locate maybe one out of 20 BR50s or 42s, BR52s,
42s,
whatever.
Big boys.
Of course, that's from the mind of somebody who has a lot of locomotives. If you only have a few, then maybe you can do less. But as Rick says, using the box number can make it so much faster even to scroll through. How do you convert all the F1 function keys to change their names?
That's easy.
All right, we'll stop. And are you geared up? Do you have your CS3 up to?
Yes, I have my CS3.
Great.
This may take a second here. Actually, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this because while I have my CS3 up, I don't have a locomotive on the track. But I can try here. Let me see.
Okay, I'm going to ask.
Edit locos.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see if, okay, it will let me choose it. Okay, here in the setup screen, Info, setup, and configuration. Now I won't be able to get into configuration because I don't have this locomotive on the track. But in the setup screen, you see here on the left, all your icons are dotted lines. If you click on one of them, you can change it to whatever you want. Basically, that's how you do it. I can change F1 to be, since how this locomotive has no lights, basically, I can give it a, geez, let's pick one. Let's give it a direction lighting. And then I
don't know if you can actually change the labeling on that though.
You can't change the labeling. You can change the icon though to whatever it's supposed to be.
Maybe you can do it in the configurations, but I really don't see any use for it since they're pretty well labeled in the.
They're not named. They're only named here in the index. They're not named anywhere else. So there's no way to do it. That's basically it. If there is no function, you can go functionless also. And it seems how this does not have any lights. Now you have sound icons. You have more sound icons. You have mechanical. That's where I can see it. You have mechanical.
Yeah, we should probably talk about the momentary, switchable, and duration functions on the right.
Okay. Mechanical is more physical outputs. As in physical outputs is in animation, not sound, not lights. Common ones, which is a little easier to find a lot of common ones because these are in most locomotives. So also when you assign it a function, like let's go sound, let's say this F0 is going to be a conductor's whistle. There, it's a conductor's whistle. Okay, but I also want to make it so that it doesn't run all the time when I push the button. So right now it's set for switching function. Switching function means it's like the light switch on your wall. When you turn it on, it stays on. When you turn it off, it goes off. Momentary function is when as long as you're holding the button down. And a lot of sound icons will be momentary. A lot of them will be switching also. Duration function is, what do we figure out duration function?
That should be a timed, I believe it's timed. Or is
that
the runtime?
How long it stays on?
That could be in seconds, I think, right?
Yeah, it's been so long since I've had that question. I know we figured it out.
And yeah, well, there's a difference between a runtime function and that.
Right.
So that's triggered by an event.
Triggered by an event. There you go. Okay, that's what it is. Duration function is how long it's going to be on until it turns off. Runtime function is triggered by an event. So you could have it blow a whistle when something happens in an event. The only problem is this locomotive will blow its whistle, so to say, anytime any other locomotive triggers that event. So you kind of want to be careful how you use that.
Yeah, and the runtime function, yeah, that's interesting because it could be, I don't know if it would be, because that states that it's an event. So it's something to explore. Is it triggered by the event? Is it on while the event is still current? Like, is it like an occupation sensor? Or does it only run as long as the event's running? So something to explore, something we haven't really explored ourselves, but just kind of be aware. Something to play around with if you guys wish.
Yeah, the central station is so diverse that we don't get to play with every single function and every single aspect of it. It's just a lot of it's so specialized to people's custom layouts that we can't test everything. So
great. And okay, so the last part of this question, he's looking to connect his iPad to the CS3 and he does not see the main station app at the App Store. Just so you're aware, the main station app and the mobile station app were basically developed during the CS2 stages. It is really not required for the CS3. For the CS3 to connect and operate through your iPad, all you need to do is do what we did earlier. Take that IP number, enter it into your browser, and then you'll actually be controlling it through the web browser. Okay.
Gary has his hand up.
Yeah.
We usually talk to Gary at these.
All right. All right, Gary, speak at us.
Hey, I just sent a question. I want to download an FX engine to take to a friend's house, and I want to put it on the card. How do you do that? From a CS3 to a CS2? You know, the little chip card, Marklin?
Yeah,
did?
you just load it onto the card. Never actually done that on a CS3. I have
I've done it
cards.
on CS2, me too.
Right, I have a whole bunch of cards. I could go in the other room and plug one in, but I know it's very easy.
Is it a drag and drop thing? I forget. It's been a while since I've actually had to look at that.
Something like that.
Are you opening up your
Yeah. I'll
pack of cards?
answer another question. I'll go play with it and we'll see.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Let's see. All right. So there is one simple question. Is there a catalog of topics covered in prior seminars that would be helpful and keep us from asking redundant questions? We do actually have an index of articles. I think we just sent our first one as a separate attachment at the first issue of this year. I can send you one. We just probably need a reminder. You can send us an email and ask for the article index. It also includes the first year of webinars, as well as all the articles that Rick and I have written since 2015. I will try to attach that for you. I'll have to do that later, but I might need the reminder. Let's see here. Rick's looking at that. A 60975 MSD decoder through CS3. He's getting a bootloader read error. I've earlier updated a BR24 sound project to the decode via PC program, but now I get the error. Okay. That's a good question. We might want to wait for Rick to return to that one. Basically, when you have part of the difficulty in answering this question is it helps obviously when we actually have devices connected to our CS3, and sort of the nature of where our computers are, or at least mine is, it's nowhere near my layout, so it makes it difficult. All right, so let's get back to the card, and then we'll get back to this question regarding decoder upgrades or updates.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's very easy. I've seen it many times, but I've never actually done it. And it's just as easy as a CS2. Basically, you put a card slot. It wanted me to put it on the right hand card reader. And you get into edit mode, edit locos, hollowing loc. And you get the info tab and the setup tab. And then down here in the lower left, it says loco card. I have a loco card in the slot. I say, well, I did. There we go. And there it goes. It's loading.
So you need to get into edit mode, and it's under the setup tab.
It's under the setup tab, and it says loco card, and there you go.
And that is the Marklin chip card. I don't think you can use your ATM card in it.
No, it'll drain all the money out of your account and
I think it puts it in ours, right?
Yeah, we have it set up that way.
Yeah. I wish.
So that's all there is.
If only.
If that happens, you won't see us next month.
Yeah. We'll be on vacation visiting Gary in Hawaii.
There you go. So that's all there's to it. And then take it to your. You can take it to a mobile station. You can get a locomotive off a mobile station and put it into your central station. So they're versatile, and they're not too don't want to say practical. They are very practical if you're going from one central station to another, mobile station to another. And you don't need to do it if it's an MFX locomotive. If it's an FX or a dip switch decoder, it will make things easier because you won't have to set the icons like we just went through about how to set icons in your central station. So it does help in that respect, and all the motor settings are there and all that good stuff. But an MFX locomotive, there's no reason for it at all. Okay.
And can you answer the question regarding the MSD3 decoder and update?
Oh, yeah. I went through that. Jeez. You know, part of our trouble is we don't do this. We don't have a lot of people's problems constantly. So we tend to forget when we had a problem and how we fixed it. And that's what happened to me just last week. That's why I remember this. A gentleman, Peter, is trying to update his 60975 MSD3 decoder through the Central Station 3. Okay, and so he gets a bootload read error, and yeah, I was getting that last week, and it's annoying. I couldn't remember what it was. And then, you know, as typically will happen to me and other people, in the middle of the night, I woke up. It's like, oh, well, dummy, that's why it's doing it. Okay, so Peter, when you get that bootloader error, obviously you need to make sure you're connected, which I believe you are, otherwise you wouldn't get the bootloader error. The locomotive has to be on the programming track. The central station will program from the Marklin, what's the name of it? The Marklin programmer.
The M
software.
decoder tool.
Pardon me?
Was it the M decoder tool? I believe is.
Yeah, the M decoder tool software. It'll program to the central station if it's connected to the same network, and the locomotive has to be selected which one you're doing, and it has to be in your inventory. So basically, if you're updating a sound decoder, you have to install the decoder, put the locomotive on the central station, let it register as a generic MSD3 decoder. Then in the programmer, you will see your central station. If it's connected to the network and your computer is, you will see a pathway to the central station. From there, you select which locomotive you want it to reprogram, which would be the MSD3 because it's a default name. And it has to be on the programming track because the Central Station 3 will load from your computer onto the programming track. So, and you shouldn't get the bootloader error that way. And that's what I had forgotten. I had it on my main track and I kept getting the bootloader error. So there you go.
Yeah, thanks for the question. That was, I think that would have stumped us for a while too.
It did for a while for me, literally when I was programming a decoder. So I think I even asked you, Curtis, if you had come across it and you didn't know, and somehow I figured it out.
Yeah, it gets tricky because usually one of the first things I do, even with a new decoder out of box, when I'm working with it, I will actually check for the firmware update option, and sometimes that kind of keeps me from dealing with certain issues. And again, it's hard to explain. I don't catch all the details, especially the sequence of trying to do what we do and explain processes.
Yeah, there's one thing I can mention. Give me a second here. I got to grab my programmer.
Okay, I am going to look at a question. Rick may have an answer to this. There is a method to do automatic calibration of locomotive motors through the CS3. Is that available to do on a mobile station?
No, I don't believe you can do it on a mobile station because it requires getting into the CVs and changing a number in the firmware of the decoder. So I don't think you can do that from a mobile station. I haven't tried it because I just didn't want to try and wrap my head around it. I don't think you can edit it in a mobile station. So
Okay. Anyway, sorry I interrupted you. You were getting something together.
yeah, I was getting the programmer stick here.
In the meantime,
And
should I answer another question, or you want to go?
no, let me go through this.
Okay. All right.
Now the programmer stick for, and unfortunately, we have to do the hey, check it out thing. You'll see that if you have a 21 pin, it's very easy to program these decoders. And I have pretty much ordered only 21 pin. I don't really want to mess with the wired decoders. It gets to be kind of a pain, and unfortunately you can't really see it. But to program a wired decoder, you need to use the 8 pin and also the 4 terminals here for the wires. Now you don't have to use the 8 pin. You can use just the terminals for the wires. But you'll notice, and it's really hard to see in the video, but if you have one of these, you can look at it. It says RT and SW. So that's the red and the black going into this basically screw terminal. The next two is BL and OR. So that's blue and orange wires go in here. And then you have blue and GE, which is yellow. And then blue and, it can't be blue. I forget what there's a blue. Geez, now I did this, or I heard about it from a dealer. It's in the manual for the 60971 programmer, and it shows you the configuration of the wires. And obviously these abbreviations are in German, so it was, I should have wrote it down. But you just have to put so many wires in these terminals for it to program, where the 21 pin is much easier. If you do have the wired decoders, you will have to program it that way or through a central station 2. If you don't have, I'm sorry, central station 3, if you don't have a central station 3, you will have to use the wired terminals, and refer back to the programmer manual, not the decoder manual, because it's not in the decoder manual. That's why we were stumped so long on what those terminals were for, because we were looking in the wrong manuals. So there you have it.
All right.
Okay, questions? Any other questions?
There's a question here online regarding when we receive updates from the CS3. Is there any notification of a locomotive decoder needing an update? And the answer to that is no. It really doesn't. There's no indicator of what decoders need updating. We don't really see anything like that. That's why I sort of mentioned that whenever we deal with a new decoder, we throw it through the firmware update automatically. I don't think about it. It's one of the first things to check, just to sort of safeguard against any kind of issues, which I don't really see too many of those.
Yeah, the decoders we install, they'll do a firmware update, but I have not figured out a way to update the firmware on locomotives that are on the track through the central station.
Yeah, actually, some of those kind of are locked out.
Yeah. So anyway, I just remembered how this is. Let me go back to this real quick. So
okay.
Here you have RT plus SW. That's the red and the black wire go into this port. Now the rest of them say BL/OR. So that's blue with orange tracer. And then you got blue with GE, BL and GE, blue and Gelb, which is yellow. And then you got blue and SW, which would be a blue with a black tracer, or black with blue tracer, whichever way you want to look at it. And those need to go into these ports. So that's why it's confusing, because those at the top, this is RT plus SW, but the rest of them say BL slash, and then a color orange, yellow. So that's what that is. Took me a minute. And actually that was a dealer in Texas, AJC Kids, finally figured it out and enlightened us on that. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for the intel. Can I outfit an AC loc from another manufacturer with an MSD3 or MLD3 decoder? Yes. Why not? It's essentially it's just a bunch of wires, guys. Once you clip the brains out of it, um,
They're all the same.
yeah, it's basically you got two track leads, right? You got your wheel lead and your center slider lead, and then you got most of the times with modern digital locomotives, you'll have two motor wires, and then the rest are going to be functions. So yeah, it's pretty much you can change or update or digitize any sort of AC locomotive you want with basically any decoder you choose to. So yeah, use the MSD3 or the MLD3. Just sort of if you're new to doing upgrades, practice on your MLD3s because you will blow up a decoder.
You might as well blow up a cheap one.
The only blow up a cheap one. Yeah.
The only problem with that is if the other manufacturer locomotive has a AC or DC motor in it. If it's got an AC motor in it, then you have to use a, what is it,
60903, wasn't it? Is that correct?
I don't remember the number.
Yeah, they Marklin does have an AC motor decoder.
So 906.
906.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They do have a. That's basically when your motor has a 3-pole setup, and you can't adapt it or you can't swap it out with like a high efficiency 2-pole motor. So generally, those 3-pole motors or those AC motors or 3-wire motors are 3-pole. So they don't have a smooth, low-speed running characteristics. One thing we have noticed is they do tend to be noisier locomotives when running.
It's because it's an AC motor, and
Yeah.
Curtis accidentally said it was a 2-pole motor when he meant 5-pole. I don't think a 2-pole motor would
Well,
run.
I meant electrical connections.
Okay.
So, all right, yeah. There's a confusion there. There's 3 poles on the field magnet or armature, right? Or 3 or 5. But when I mean poles, I'm actually talking about electrical connections. There's 2, positive and negative, or it reverses, or however you guys want to argue with me on that one. I'll let you win. So the one question here, and it's regarding the pickup shoe changeover circuit board. I don't know if I want to really get into that. Plus, I don't have a setup to actually demonstrate any of that. Question is it meant to take the existing decoder of a locomotive and plug it into the circuit board? Is that plugged in, or is it a separate wired option?
It's a 21 pin, I believe. I have one lurking around here, but I've yet to install one. And all it does is there's a relay on it to switch it from the pickup shoe at one end of the locomotive. And when it reverses, you hear the relay click and it picks it up at the other end. And the idea is to have it picking up from the direction forward slider on the direction of travel. So
I think it governs itself, right? As far as operation goes, it just needs to get the impulse from the main decoder.
Yeah, it gets somehow or another it clicks. Again, it's all smoke and mirrors and magic. So, but it just literally just the red wire from one end of the locomotive to the other, whichever one it chooses, for the direction of travel. So.
Yeah, I haven't actually looked at one in a while, so I can't remember how it's the wiring configuration. It's pretty easy. I wouldn't really worry. I wouldn't really be concerned about anything regarding installation of those. There was a comment that I had regarding the AC. Oh, so yeah, if you do install, or if you are new to installing or upgrading or digitizing older locomotives, as Rick said, the 21 pin board will be a good option because you basically do all your heating and soldering of everything on the mounting board, and you don't really risk any damage to the decoder itself. The other benefit is let's say you wire and test using an MLD3 decoder, that's the non-sound decoder, and everything's working fine. And if you use the 21 pin plug, then it's easy just to swap out to a sound decoder whenever you want to, or vice versa if the sound drives you nuts. So, and that's it for that question. We do actually have Gary. We're gonna let you speak again here. Yeah, Gary, hey,
Hi,
go
guys.
ahead. You had a comment?
Hey, yeah, I bought a Porsche Roco 21 pin when last time I was in Germany. And I brought it home and I put it in a 21 pin sound decoder, switched right over, no problem.
Yeah.
Worked really great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. And this is sort of, going back to the question, do factory installed loco decoders ever get updated? I think rarely. Some of them again are locked out.
Well, they've all been locked out as far as I know. You can't get in and edit them too much. You can't update them. We were told that it was supposed to be a feature of an update, and haven't seen it happen yet. So no, we don't update the firmware on the locomotives. That's what kind of goes back to my comment before, saying I don't know how the CS3 is going to update the firmware on a locomotive. I don't think it does. I have not seen it if it does, because anytime you want to try to do an update or file transfer, you have to put the file in there. So we just don't worry about it.
Yeah, in all honesty, I think locomotive decoder updates are fairly minor. They don't really affect the system. Usually when we receive calls saying, hey, my locomotive's not doing something with the CS3, a lot of times we'll actually find the majority of them are that the CS3 itself needs to be updated software-wise, especially with regards to the MFX decoded locomotives. The CS3 update generally clears those things up, not the other way around. We don't really find too many faults regarding decoder versions themselves. I don't think I've ever seen one, even when I do sort of decoder updates from the factory on fresh decoders from the factory. It's transparent. I don't really see anything. It works either way, whether I do the upgrade or not. Not too much to worry about. One last question I actually have in the banks, and Rick and I kind of talked about this before. We have a gentleman who actually has M83s and M84s, and we kind of covered this earlier. They're all connected. They're all connected using the side connectors here. And I think Rick and I might have had different solutions, so we weren't really sure. Basically what happened was when he had several of these connected and he was trying to register them into his CS3, he actually deleted them from his CS3 and then they weren't reacquiring. There's a number of issues that could be involved, but basically what he did was he only had one of these feed wires connected to the single unit, and he said only one of these boxes had re-registered. The other 3 or 4 did not. What I'm not really aware of is I don't know if this sort of data feed into these boxes, because this is critical to get one of these boxes to work. I don't know if it's transferred to the side ports to the other devices. I think Rick said it might, but something that we, out of curiosity, we might.
It is, because I have the show layout that I have a couple of them plugged into, or even the Christmas tree, and
you only use one feed?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Okay. Well, the other shortcut is you can always daisy chain from here to here,
right.
The next one, whatever. But just something to be aware of. That's something that somebody sent a question on, and I thought it was kind of interesting because I didn't really think about it myself. Again, as I mentioned earlier, most of mine these boxes are spread around the layout, not all in one unit. So, all right. No, well, we've cleared out questions. If you guys have any questions or chats, any comments? Let's see. Yeah, we did have the chat window closed for a while, but there luckily the questions were relayed to the Q&A. So the chat box is open. Do we have any other? Did we receive any other interesting questions?
I haven't seen any.
Okay, so that was answered. Next question. That was addressed. There was a question a while ago regarding function sounding. We answered that one. All right. Okay, and we have no questions coming in through YouTube. Well, I think that may do it for us. Do you guys have anything? Oh, wait. All right. You're welcome for the answers. Oh, sorry, guys. My heater just kicked in. Surprising in the summer. All right. Okay. Well, I think that might do it for us, unless you guys do have any comments that you'd like to share or questions. It's definitely been fun answering your questions for you. Anything we try to do to help.
A lot of good diversity of questions this time.
Anyways, all right. We do have John. All right, John, go ahead.
Just one interesting question. As I say, I'm in the UK. We've got a very limited number of users, which we're trying to relate to. How many people are actually on this webinar now? Do you know?
We have 20 attendees. We're up to 22.
We have 22 attendees on the Zoom webinar, and we actually have, let's see, where'd that figure go? We had a number of viewers on YouTube earlier, which I no longer see that stat.
What time is it there, John?
We have 12 viewers on YouTube.
Here in the UK, it's 8:17 in the evening. What's it where you are?
It is 12:20, 12:17.
Yeah, you're 8 hours before us.
Yeah, or after you.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks very much. Thank you very much for your help. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime you have a question, just send it to us. We're glad to that we can reach across the pond to you folks.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. We do have a question regarding the turntable.
Yeah, Norbert. Thanks, Norbert.
Rick and I both received no problem, Norbert. We both received some turntables for us to explore. I guess it will either be, we'll probably do a dual thing. We'll do a write-up on it probably. I don't know if we're going to get to it in this next newsletter, but because we're still I'm going to actually be building a board to take to a local show that we're doing at the end of this month, or actually in 10 days.
Weekend after this.
Yes. Yeah. So we're gonna try to configure that and figure out at least what we can. So and we'll try to, I guess I'm terrible at recording things while I'm doing them, just because I'd rather do them than actually set up a camera. But maybe we'll be able to talk about it on our next webinar.
Yeah, I have dragged it out of the box and I have set it up, and I actually do have it set up in my CS3, which I can share.
What do your trains roll off the end of the bed and just kind of fall over?
Yeah. It's a minor problem, but I'm sure I could fix it somehow. Let me get this set up real quick. It's not connected to it anymore, but it is at least, it does have it did load the diagram.
Do you want to share?
Yeah, I had to get the window back up.
Yeah.
So it is kind of handy to have it. That's what the diagram you get, and you just index it to wherever you want it to go. Right now it would be turning. The problem I had with it is I just pulled it out and put it on the table. And the mechanics of the turntable, you're not supposed to do that. So I did have a little bit of trouble getting it to register the correct spurs. And it registers it themselves. It registers by itself. It'll go around, and if you've seen the video, it's great. So I did have that issue because I didn't support it correctly. It misregistered a couple of them, and there's little encoders on the end of each spur, and they do fall out easily. I wouldn't recommend gluing them in, but I may take some wax and stick them in there pretty good with some wax so they stay. But again, it has to be supported correctly, and you'll see it in the instructions. So because I haven't done that, it did kind of get hung up, but it is nice. It does have some nice sounds, and some kind of fun features for the lights. So I do recommend them, definitely. And once I get it supported, like Curtis is probably going to get it supported correctly before I have a chance to, and probably do an article on that.
Yeah, hopefully I'm going to get to the build before the next week. Like I said, within 10 days.
Change the smoke setting in let's see. How does one change the smoke setting on an MFX decoder, such increasing the power setting to get more smoke? You can't. It gets basically, I believe it, I don't know if the power comes 100% from the decoder. Yes, it comes from the decoder. So you really can't change the smoke setting. If you have some problem with the smoke generator not working well, it may be the smoke generator itself. If you're getting any smoke out, it would most likely be the smoke generator itself.
I think the way the digital smoke units are connected is basically like the motor connections. It's a pulse output, and I'm guessing it's a little bit of an assumption that most of the functions are set for maximum output. So if you do any adjustments to it, I think the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to reduce the output to the actual smoke connection, because it's going to increase sort of the pulse gap, making sort of the average voltage lower. So
right, and he just typed in the question thing that it's an LGB standard smoke unit.
Yeah.
So that could very well be a lack of track power, depending on how you're running it. If you're running it off, so to say, a mobile station, yeah, you will have issues if you're not using the correct track box, so to say. Which is one thing I need to order and really check out one of the 1 gauge track boxes. I think it gives more track power, but it could be an old smoke unit where it's just seen its days and it likes analog power, which you can run it up pretty good on analog power because you get the lights, you get the smoke brighter. It's hard to say. It may just
and I would actually speculate too that when you have like older sort of units like that, your contact points could get oxidized, or you're going to get a coating of like, it's like when you get bare metal that coats itself like a penny does when it goes brown on you. All that stuff can inhibit current and just sort of reduce the output. So again, this is speculation. There could be merits to like using electrical parts cleaner and spraying all your metal components.
Okay, yeah, he says he's using a 60195 power supply, which is the 5 amp power supply, but it's the track box that regulates the how much power gets to the track. So if you're not using the 1 gauge track box, I mean, well, okay, wait a minute. What controller are you using, Phil? I mean, I'll wait for him to text, but it depends on the controller, because the controller puts the power to the track. So that's basically a short answer.
Yeah, and then there's your power distribution feed. You know, we don't really know what it's like. If you have one feed that's going all the way around the layout, then you're limiting, creating more resistance.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times there's guys who might actually have booster sections that actually have more power than the main output from the controller.
Yeah, he's using a CS3, so I would suspect it may be the smoke generator itself is having the problem. If it's a brand new locomotive, it could be a warranty issue. You have to investigate. So we did have a comment to see if we got any new items, Curtis, because I know there's one on the table behind you.
Oh, the Coca-Cola box
Yes.
that I just took off the table. No, it's still there. New items. You don't need to see that out. There you have
There you go.
the S-Bond Coca-Cola containers. I guess you guys really don't want to look at the box picture. You just get a reflection of the cover plastic. How's that? Ta-da! Looks just like the box picture, except now you see the styrofoam frame. Here, up close, personal. There you go. I guess thing of beauty, huh? Rick will give you all the details on what locomotives are behind it, and you can see the paint scheme on the ends, typical.
Yes. S-Bond paint schemes.
Right? If you guys really want more show and tell, I'd have to go into another room and pull out locomotives. So.
Yeah, I don't think I have. I'm still waiting for my S-Bond. Those who may be watching, supposed to be coming soon. I don't think I have any new items. No, nothing that hasn't been put away in inventory, or at least that's brand new that I haven't shown.
I'll be right back. You can maybe answer a couple of these questions here.
All right.
I'm going to kill my video so you don't have to
Well,
watch me walking away.
Here's an easy one. Somebody's asking where we are. Well, I am in Southern California, and it's currently about a bazillion degrees outside, where I can, let's see, it is currently 90 degrees outside. Curtis is in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is where I grew up and moved down here a couple of years ago. So I was just at his house over the weekend also. So that's where we are. One gentleman's asking me about the LGB locomotive behind me, how I like it. I said, I can't say. I just pulled that out of the box. It's a warranty repair. Seems how I'm doing a warranty repair. It does not move. It rolls really good, which it's not supposed to. So I need to look at that. Oops, and there it goes, rolling. I'm kind of afraid to take it apart because it is so complex. It is so heavy. It is cast zinc. It's not your typical LGB locomotive that is mostly plastic. So that thing is just amazingly heavy. So I'm going to be probably tearing into that today or tomorrow, see why it doesn't run. And let's see, we have another question. Oh no, we don't. Basically, this gentleman, Tim Richardson, I assume he's in England also, because he's asking, is there a user group that can be opted into that would allow us to ID and contact other users that are in the area, close proximity to us, help building the community? One thing we use is the Marklin users net. and you can, pretty much private message, or even it's just a blog. You can blog, hey, you know what, I'm in this area. Is there anybody near me so we can connect? In the US, there is a club called ETE, European Train Enthusiasts, which we both are or are currently members of. I'm actually president of the Southern California chapter. Curtis is former president of the San Francisco chapter. So there's
I'm actually on hiatus, so I'm not currently a member this year, but I am planning on signing up for next year.
yeah.
So
So those are a couple of good avenues to look at.
Yeah, if there was actually an ETE in Europe, would it be TETE, True European Train?
No, maybe it'd be domestic, DTE, domestic. Train
Great.
enthusiasts.
We're gonna get ourselves in a lot of trouble with that.
Yeah, no, we're not.
Yeah. So yeah, a couple more new things, I guess, if you guys really are interested. I do get interesting. I got a couple of passenger set cars which actually look similar, but
Yeah.
I had actually forgotten. I actually have to pull out the manual or figure out the order form. But they're actually two different series for two different sets, and I forget what it was. The number schemes. Let's see. Does that? It looks like Rick just lost power.
No.
Oh, said
No.
host video.
Oh, did I push the wrong button?
Did you turn your camera?
You can't see me?
No, you're gone.
Well, I spotlighted you so that when I talk,
Oh,
you won't see me because you're trying to show stuff
that's a
upside
good
down.
thing. Oh, I see. And then I got this one here, the Silver Oak.
Yeah, take that one out. I didn't get that. You got the one that we were allotted.
Yeah, we battled over this one, and I happened to get that one. I think this is the same look that we run with those two cars, or at least those passenger cars I showed earlier.
No.
In white. I don't remember.
No. No, you got a white 103 coming to go with those white cars.
Yeah,
that's a fantasy locomotive. There's actually no cars for it.
Yeah, I was actually saying a white one. That's what I meant, a white 103. So if those of you guys are not familiar, this is a 103.
In the silver and gray.
This is a silver one, and I was gonna show you the unit, but I didn't really feel like unwrapping the plastic sleeve.
I hope everyone is seeing you and not me.
Yeah, well, I can see myself, so there's.
Okay.
Sorry, excuse the glare.
Oh my God, that's gorgeous.
Pull it out of. Oh, it's got the. When you get the plastic sleeves and they've, the plastic isn't really cool. It kind of shrinks around it.
Well, they use thicker plastic now too.
Yeah, I can't get it out.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, don't. Let's get you back on screen. We do have our hand up.
Yeah, John Ferguson. Yeah. Go ahead, John. Tell us about DTE.
There is a website, isn't it, called marklin-users.net.
Yes.
Which I think Tim was asking from the UK, and you can go on there and find out other UK users and other countries, of course.
Yes.
And that's quite a lot of help.
Yes,
just thought I'd pass that on.
That's what I had mentioned, the Marklin users net.
There you go.
So thanks, John.
Thanks.
They're close. I actually almost broke one of these windshield wiper blades getting the cotton off it.
There you go. The camera focused on it now. That looks great.
There you go. I think you all want one.
I wanted that one. I'm jealous. I actually ordered it, but we were only allotted one. And
I'm taking bid. Auction starts at $2,000. Get in trouble for that one. I look forward to your emails. All right. Anything else? Any other questions?
Am I spotlighted now? Can you?
Yes, you are spotlighted.
I don't know how to unspotlight.
It's under the view, so. Oh, it's under speak overview. Oops. Anyways, we've been going for an hour and a half, which is good for us. There are female Marklin enthusiasts. Well, we are aware of some in some of the ETE circles. Linda,
Hello,
we
Linda.
welcome you. We welcome you. Glad
Where-
you are an enthusiast. Hope you.
Where are you at, Linda?
Hey, isn't that kind of personal?
No, because we did a guest appearance Indianapolis. Yeah, we did your ETE chapter. We were on your ETE chapter meeting a month and a half ago, and I was wondering if you were the same lady and husband that were there. And I'm assuming you are. So, wonderful. Yeah, we have a woman in our chapter here, and it's great having it's great having ladies in the chapter. I love their take on everything, and it gives us a different view of layouts, basically. So,
Welcome. I'm glad you were able to join our webinar.
so I guess we need some pink Marklin shirts or something for the ladies.
No,
I think it'd be a good thing.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We do have, is there another question? Oh, that's cleared. Thank you. I think that about covers it. What do you say?
Yeah.
I think we are done. I think that would be fine. We hope you guys are all safe. And I guess luckily COVID is starting to be a little less stressful on us. And we're able to go out and meet in meetings. I think we were actually talking earlier. We believe that Train Fest in Milwaukee may be on. That's in November. We will be appearing at a Bay Area event in 10 days, a week.
Yeah, a week and a half.
A week and a half. That is the weekend in what is
24th
that?
and 25th.
South San Francisco, technically. Yeah, that's the 24th, right? That starts on Saturday, does it not?
Yeah, 24th, 25th.
Yeah. And yeah, we really don't know what our regular schedule is if we're gonna be back on our regular visiting schedule after, if we do make it to Trains Fest in November, then we would have the Big E in was that Pennsylvania? I'm terrible at geography. No, is that Amherst?
Massachusetts.
No.
Yeah.
Massachusetts. Okay, and that's in January of next year.
There's also in Concord.
In Concord, yes. Yeah, again, we don't know. There is the Just Trains, isn't it?
Yes.
In Concord, California. As Rick said, both Rick and I are in California. So if anybody happens to make it out of California this weekend to go to a train show, there you can send us an email. We can tell you the website. What is it? Eurowest. What was the name of the website?
Oh, Eurotrainswap.com.
Eurotrainswap.com. And that is something that we will be attending. So anyways, thanks again for joining us. You guys have been great with your questions. Hopefully you guys have got some good information from us. If you do have questions, we will hopefully get those notices out to you early so that you can send them in. A lot of it is, as you may notice, a bit unscripted. So we need practice with our live speaking.
Yeah, we don't, we haven't taken any formal broadcast training, in case you hadn't noticed. But we also like to keep the venue to questions that people come up with and, problems they have. We also, if you'll notice, if you've seen our older videos, we have problems every once in a while. We like to show that we have problems just like you guys do and how we process through them. So. it
Oh,
is
and
rather
also
live
for
event.
yeah, and also for new users or new viewers out there who maybe didn't catch the webinars as they go live, we do. We are the Marklin Digital Club team. There's signups through marklin.com. There are two clubs that that Marklin has. One is the Insider Club, and that one is a fee service. You get magazines, newsletters, DVDs. No, actually, they are doing those, I
The
think,
download.
direct download. Yeah. And then there is the Digital Club, which is no fee involved, the bi-monthly newsletters, as well as the webinars and Q&A. And we are here to help you, get the most use out of your controllers and your Marklin trains.
Yeah, and we if you guys have any topics you would like us to write about, because we basically run out of topics very easily now. We have covered very much, so it's hard coming up with topics.
Yeah,
Right.
let us know if you have an interest in us taking like a track plan out of the Marklin magazine, and then how we would basically implement it into CS3. Especially that mostly will probably focus on how developing track plans in the CS3, and then maybe we can actually take that and cover some events if you guys are interested. Let us know what your take is on that, and that might spur us on to maybe do a short series on that. Um, for we'll probably maybe do 15-minute segments per webinar focused on that. We won't get into like how to add turnouts or anything, because that's also covered in earlier newsletters. Also, again, if you want to know past issues, topics, let us know. We can send you out an index of articles as well as the webinars. The email address is digital@marklin.com. And I think we're going to use that one primarily, right, Rick?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I keep hearing from a little text message from the office that Train Fest is canceled, so it's at least canceled for us. How's that?
Okay. Yep. Sorry we won't see you there. Look forward to 2022.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Thanks again. Another one of our long-winded goodbyes. Hopefully we'll see you again next month. Take care. Be safe.
And we'll see you next month.